Welcome, everybody. I am Rick DiClemente. This is Astrology Unplugged. I'm trying to stay awake tonight, so wish me luck. Tonight, I was thinking, and you can't really just keep doing normal old astrology shows with this thing that's upon us called the election. And it's not that it's just so overpowering, but the planets are. I want to show you what's going on with the planets. We've talked some about, last week we had 286 viewers already viewing Stephen and myself's show last week of the time between the election and the inauguration. That show is out there on YouTube. And I've done other shows, similar quality, similar subject. But tonight I want to talk to you about the fact that very soon 3 planets are going to leave Capricorn and go into Aquarius. And by next spring, Jupiter, Saturn, and Uranus, Jupiter, Saturn, and Uranus will be out of Capricorn. But the Capricorn stuff's going to remain. And the Uranus stuff's going to start. So we got a lot to talk about. And if you listen closely this week, like Susan appears to be, she's like, ooh. I like to tease Susan because she's a Sag. She's got a sense of humor. Okay, now, if you look at the planets right now, let me get them ready. Here comes Lori. And this is where the planets are right about now. Okay. One of the things that overwhelms a beginner is 2 things. One, you get the houses mixed up with the signs. Okay? When we're dealing with the signs, remember the signs go from here to here, along through here, and you have to estimate where the border is by looking at the number. The houses are here. The houses are not so important about what we're doing tonight. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to shift and pick a different wheel style that's going to show you a clear view of the zodiac. These are the houses. This is not the zodiac. This is the zodiac out here. So if I go here and I pick wheel style, and I go over to one that's a very nice one to use. You can see there are hundreds to use. I'm going to pick European number 4, and it's very good for this chore. See? Now we can completely ignore the houses, and we're looking just the signs. So you see everything going from here to here, from here to here, from here to here, etc. So when you're talking about sign-specific stuff, it's a good way of doing things. Now, what I'm talking about, Jupiter's at 20 of Capricorn. Of course, each sign has 30 degrees. Pluto's still at 22, almost 23. Saturn's at 26. Eris is sitting over here, 23. Remember, in my lifetime, it's gone from 6 to 23. So Eris moves very slowly. In fact, it moves very fast, but it's so far away that it doesn't really matter how fast it's moving. It takes 540 years to go around the circle. And Eris came into Aries. That's Chiron. Here's Eris. Eris came into Aries, started a new zodiac in 1921. And that's why so many things happened. 1919, 1920, 1921 were so many revolutions because Eris came into a new sign. And now Eris is here, and she'll be in Aries for 120 years. So the main thing we're going to focus on now is Jupiter, Pluto, Saturn, and Eris. One of the other things that confuses people is you see the sun, Mercury, you see Venus, you see the node, Uranus, you see Mars, you see the moon. These things tend to get in your visual way of seeing things. when you get a little more expert at it, you learn to ignore them. So really, when I look at these for tonight's job, I could take them off the screen, but I really look at this, and this, okay? And when I look at them, I have an automatic sense of how fast they're moving because I've looked at them so long. Jupiter, 1 year per sign. Pluto's been here in Capricorn since 2008. Saturn's been in Capricorn for about the last 2 years. And then you start to see how solar fire messes up and the Saturn starts to look like it's in Aquarius. That's just because they're bunched together. These three are all actually in Capricorn in this area. Okay, Neptune takes his good old time going through Pisces. We're not going to look at that very much. And Eris has really been here since 1920. So, a lot of people have said to me, now, Rick, don't you think things are going to get a lot better when Jupiter and Pluto and Saturn all go into Aquarius? Well, in December, Jupiter and Saturn will be in Aquarius. And in March, that's not too long, it's the first day of spring, Pluto will be. Is that right? Let's see if I get this right. Yes. Let me make sure of this. Let me make sure of this. I'm not sure of this. Okay. I want to do this. And I did something incorrect. Let me see what's going on. Okay, we go by months. And we jump ahead. We're keeping an eye on Pluto. Okay. It's Saturn, Jupiter. Okay, Saturn and Jupiter going into Aquarius. All right. I was wrong. Anyhow, the fact that two planets, Saturn and Jupiter, are going into a new sign like Aquarius is significant, and in other times it would be much more significant, except for this humongous battle going on between Eris and Pluto, mainly because they're exact and that's what it was. Thank you. Pluto goes into Aquarius in 2024. Okay. But the point is, a couple of things. You got to remember, when the planets come out of Capricorn and go into Aquarius, let me show you another screen. It's a little more telling. Okay. We've had all these planets in Capricorn, and they're going to go into Aquarius. And a lot of people are expecting a lot of shocking differences. But it's not going to be like Pluto was when it went from Sag into Capricorn, because Aquarius is a lot like Capricorn. Aquarius has a double ruler. It's ruled by Saturn and Uranus, whereas Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. Now, one of the things that you're going to see, thank God, is what have we had for so long now, since 2008, 12 years now, of our institutions being threatened and all this corruption with institutions? That's been the Capricorn rulership. Now, when it goes into Aquarius, what you're going to start to see, and you're going to start to feel this in the collective, is this feeling of, hey, we've got to work together. We've got to gather our resources and work together. And one of the really good things, there's nobody in the zodiac that's as pro-environment as Aquarians. So that's really good. And you're going to see, whereas 2008 through 2023, you've seen all this legislation, Capricorn, pro and con with the environment, you're going to see these Aquarians really, if Greenpeace is anything, it's an Aquarian institution trying to save what we got and appreciate what we got. So you're going to start to feel this collective force of let's work together, and you're not getting it now. because you're getting the Capricorn and the Cancer right now. Because we're a Cancer country, you're getting all the Capricorn, and both of those two are about save myself. And that's why you're seeing some of the problems you're seeing right now, because people are worried about themselves. As you start to see these planets shift into Aquarius, you're going to start to feel grassroots campaigns emerging, people starting to work together. You've already seen pictures of people growing gardens on the rooftops and community gardens, and you're going to see less of a dependency upon the big system. Okay, now, one of the things I want to show you is this. Since Pluto and Saturn have been here, and Pluto and Saturn, they only link up about every 35, 40s, 50 years. Pluto and Saturn have been right here in Capricorn for everybody. And that means for all the countries in the world, if it's in the zodiac of this position, this is why so many governments have been going through corruption and through this thing now of populism and this thing now of force, might makes right. These are the distortions of Capricorn energy. And the reason you're getting these distortions of Capricorn for now is when Pluto and Saturn are together, these are the two severe bosses of the zodiac. They were together when World War I started. They were together when World War II started. They were opposite each other, 9/11. So in a wonderful book by Richard Tarnas called Cosmos and Psyche, he writes a wonderful, detailed chapter of how grave Pluto and Saturn are when they're together. Now, what's made it triple time, just to show you, what's made it 3 times heavier than usual is the fact that the USA sun is at 13. So when Pluto and Saturn were crossing through here, they were opposing the United States sun, causing the identity crisis. The fact that 1776, Pluto was right here, and now Pluto's right here. So Pluto's going all the way around. It's just about returned. And number 3, Eris is sitting here. So Eris is at right angle to Pluto. So even when these planets spread out of Capricorn, you're still going to have Pluto sitting there squaring Eris. All right. Now, what is Eris? To remind you, Eris is this new feeling that you're feeling around you, and it is new. It's new. Because Eris is a baby in astrology, because we only discovered her 14 years ago. And nobody even started to get an idea what she was like till 8 years ago. She's the one that's causing people now to feel like, I'm not putting up with it anymore. It's not fair, and I'm going to do something about it. This is not Americans' nature, but Americans are learning to adopt this nature. I will do whatever it takes so that we will be fair. Now, the problem, as I've told you, just to remind you, is there's really 2 kinds of Eris. There's one that's a dark side and one that's a light side. In other words, there are some people saying, I've not really been counted and it's not fair, and it's really true. And other people are saying, I've not really been counted and it's not fair and it's not true. I think you can discern the 2 for yourself. Now, nevertheless, when Saturn and Pluto are together, these are heavyweight planets. So one of the things I want to do tonight, I'm going to explain to you in your own charts what Saturn and Pluto have been doing. Now, I could extend the fact that Saturn and Pluto are here and Uranus is here. I could involve 3 planets, but I'm just going to keep it to the 2. Saturn and Pluto, and the Pluto return is all taking place here. This is called a solar reading. A solar reading is when you look at the pure zodiac. This is the zodiac. And in the zodiac, Aries is always right here. Always. Right here. Capricorn is always right here. There are other ways to draw zodiac, and they're all incorrect. In the zodiac, Capricorn is here. They go counterclockwise, and Aries is always right here. This is always the go start line right here. First sign, last sign. Okay. Now, what Saturn and Pluto have been doing, a word about this before I get started. The peculiar thing that's been happening is Pluto has been exposing our rawness, exposing our corruption, exposing rot and decay, because that's what Pluto does. Now, if there were no rot and decay, then Pluto wouldn't be doing it. You got to really work hard in astrology to get away from an attitude that these planets are doing things to me, because they're not. Okay? The planets work through us. The planets are life energy itself. Here comes Waldo. They're all coming in. Now, the thing is that they're both very intense signs. Pluto is, what are you doing to get your evolution moving? What have you been doing to help greater mankind? What have you been doing besides take up space? That's what Pluto says. Saturn says, what are you doing to make the thing work? Are you working, or are you relaxing? Are you skipping out? Are you playing hooky? So these two can be very grave. So wherever these two are in the zodiac, they're having a big impact. Now, for instance, in your chart, Pluto and Saturn are going to be in one of your houses. They're also going to be in one of your solar houses. So if I'm talking with John here, John's a Gemini. To look at John's solar houses, I simply put Gemini in the first house because he's a Gemini, and across from Gemini is Sag, and in the 8th house would be where Saturn and Pluto are. So all Geminis are being hit by Saturn and Pluto in their solar 8th house. But in his particular chart, Saturn and Pluto probably fall in a different house. The natal chart is more of a chart of your incarnation. So let's go back to the, hello, John. Let's go back to the solar chart. So if I were to put Gemini here, Capricorn would be here in John's chart, and we would be studying that. So let me walk through them for you, and you'll get an idea. Now, just like Diane's chart, that's what I was trying to think of. Diane is an Aries. Okay, so we're not going to talk about your natal chart right now. For all Aries in the world, and this is how astrologers do horoscopes. They treat all Aries as if zero Aries. And it all works. Both charts work. It's such a flexible hologram, the zodiac. So for all Aries in the world, dogs, buildings, people, all Aries in the world have Saturn and Pluto hitting them from the 10th house. That's the solar chart. You put the sun sign, the beginning of the sun sign here, and you see where Saturn and Pluto end up. So what does that mean for Aries? Aries is already a leader, but Aries is a fire leader. Okay? They're a leader by fire, a leader of enthusiasm. I've always told you. Out front in the jungle with the machete. That's what Aries is. Unless the chart is held down by other aspects in it. Excuse me, get a little water. What does this mean for Aries? It means that it's time to pick up and go for what you want, especially what's the 10th house. The 10th house is your career, your job, or your calling, or both. Your calling is a pure look at it. That's like when God calls you or your muse calls you. The 10th house is watered down and is misunderstood in the Western world to be your job calling or your career, your path. Well, you see, Saturn and Pluto in the 10th house is not a big deal for Aries, because Aries are already, if they want something, they go after it, they get it. So you have to mix all this stuff together. So for Aries people since 2008 until now, you're really being forced to, from inside, being forced to find your way. Now, when Pluto is talking to us from inside, Pluto's that part of us that doesn't really want to party. It's really serious, and it wants you to do serious stuff to make a difference. Saturn's very similar. So I would like to ask Diane. I'll have to, okay, I got that. I want to ask Diane, honey, ask to unmute. In general, for your last 12 years, have you felt this force of like, God, I got to make my move?
Well, it's interesting. I'm just trying to think. I've been a therapist for the last about 15 years.
Okay.
And that was, something I'd always wanted to do.
Okay. Did you feel this impelled to become more important, affect more lives?
I've always felt that. That's why I'm hesitating. I know what happened around 2008 is I actually went into private practice and felt like that's where I really belonged.
Okay, well, let me point something out to you. It is not Aries' nature to go out and help a bunch of people. The essence of Aries is I'm exploring who I am. That's just who it is. So you can see how this has had its impact on you. And you're also going to notice in about 2 years when Pluto finally leaves Capricorn and finally leaves your solar 10th house, you're going to feel relief in that area, and you're going to start to feel what it's doing in your 11th house. Okay? All right. You'll catch on as I go further. Now, where is my next victim? Where did she go? My Taurus. My Taurus went away. There's Erica. I'm asking Erica to unmute. Now, Erica, watch this. Now, if you put the ascendant here, if you put the ascendant in Taurus, you just rotate it, then the Capricorn stuff is coming from her 9th house. So as we go through each sign, Pluto and Saturn are going to back up backwards. So the 9th house. So all Tauruses in the world, and they're not a real philosophical sign in general, all Tauruses in the world have had Saturn in the 9th house for 2 years, Pluto in the house for 12 years. So what you should have found, Erica, because I know you're very psychological and you're very philosophical, but you should have found, this even has to do with higher schooling, higher education. You should have found these last 12 years, you've been working really hard to figure out what your philosophy is. Does that make sense to you?
I've been studying anything I can get my hands on that's interesting.
Now keep
and I've been interested in those things pretty much since my 20s, but I didn't really take the time to do it to the extent that I have. I've just been reading and audiobooks and studying.
You've got a very strong Neptune, because frankly, Tauruses are not usually interested in the outer realms. But you, with your very strong Neptune, that's what changes your chart. Okay, but this is why you've been so 9th house involved since the last 12 years. Okay?
Rick, how about where it's actually been in our birth charts?
I'm not going to go into that.
In my 4th house.
Well, you're exactly right, but I'm not going into it on purpose because I don't want to confuse you. We're looking at 12 ways right now, and I don't want to put another 12 on top of it. Yes, In your actual house, it's very similar. But one is looking at life through the nature of your sun, and one is looking at your life through the nature of your incarnation. So they're really similar, but I don't want to get too confused right now. So thank you for that. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. I thought you had something else. Okay, now with John. John is our intellectual, tons of planets in Gemini. So let's go back to you're welcome. Let's go back to the zodiac. Now we're dealing with a Gemini who's John. John, put this on the first house. This automatically becomes the seventh house. Here's the eighth house, Capricorn. So for John, since 2008, you've been really pushed towards deeper occult, deeper meaning, deeper learning. But we know you've been that way all your life anyway, because of the rest of your chart is just set up that way. But all Geminis have been going into deeper stuff, and this is very uncanny for Geminis. And in a way, you could say Geminis have not been themselves since '08, because they've been much deeper, and it's not Gemini's nature to be deep. It's their nature to go this way. And this is why sometimes, what's the eighth house really about? What the eighth house is really about is the study of what I get. What's the word? What I get when I mix me and you. That's the eighth house. When I put two people together. The alchemy of two people fusing. It's the Scorpio house. Now don't get confused. Everybody's eighth house has a Scorpio quality, because the eighth house for everybody is Scorpio-like. People have different signs on their eighth house. But the eighth house, this is why Gemini, they need this, but they've had a rough time of it for 12 years because they've been not able to escape and stay lighter. Gemini want to be escape and light and explore. But not while Pluto's been there. You've been going deeper and deeper and deeper. And you're going to get quite a reprieve in 2 years when Pluto leaves Capricorn and goes thus into your, I guess, seventh house. Now, let's go on to, we've got a Cancer here. Well, if we don't, that's okay. Okay, yeah, Anita's here. Here's our Cancers. So if you put this on the first house, Cancer, all the stuff in Capricorn has been in the seventh house. Now, I'll tell you why this is difficult. And Cancer is not an easy sign to be. It's just a tough sign to be. Why? Because it's the first sign that really archetypally starts to feel. And all that brings with it. Well, everything since the last 12 years, Anita, and for you Cancers, has been about your relationships. You see, Cancer's not about relationships. Cancer's about, I must take care of myself. That's what it does. I must take care of myself, love myself. That's why when you're with a Cancer, what do they always ask you? One question, how you feel? Hey, how you feel? Feeling okay? How you feel? That's their strength. Cardinal water. Cardinal water. How you feel? So for Cancers, I really think what we've seen in the last 12 years, I think a lot of them went through hell, but I think a lot of Cancers have really learned a lot. They've learned a lot better how to relate, how to have relationships with people without getting lost in the relationship. That's really a big deal. And there's no signs that can get lost in relationships more than, I guess 3 signs. Cancer, Libra, Pisces. Those 3 signs are very prone to getting lost. Cancer, Libra, Pisces. They can get lost in their relationship. But one thing that will fool you as you do astrology, Cancers can appear to be kind of timid. But when you study and study and study, you'll start to see they got a really powerful side. They can be wicked. They can be tenacious. And I think what Cancer has done in the last 12 years is they've gotten past this dependency on people, which is their charge at their very early stage. And I think because they've gotten past that, they've become stronger and stronger. I'll take care of myself, thank you very much. So it's been tough for Cancer, but Saturn and Pluto have made them a lot tougher. Much like steel gets tempered. That's what they've been through. So I think you're starting to see the idea how the zodiac turns and how the same two planets are affecting all the signs differently. And these are, what I'm doing right now is very similar to what I did in 2007 when I did a forecast for all the signs. And I say, here comes Pluto in the Capricorn. Here's what it's going to do to your sign. And I did a similar process. Now, let's go into Leo. We got Charles with us, and we got a lot of people with us tonight. Okay, if you put the beginning of Leo on the zodiac, on the beginning of the zodiac, then right across is Aquarius. So therefore, Capricorn is the sixth house. So I don't know, Charles. I think we're probably barking up the right tree here. The sixth house is about getting yourself together in all ways, getting your hair cut, getting your clothes, getting your job right, getting your skills right, getting things sharpened. Because what I'm really learning at my old age of 152, what the sixth house is about is getting ready for the seventh house. Because the seventh house is critical if you've read our book. The seventh house is the we of the zodiac. First 6 signs, the me. Last 6 signs, the we. So I really think the sixth house has an innate ability, the Virgo stuff. I really think what Virgo is all about is I got to get myself ready. No more excuses. Yes, sir, no more excuses. Get back up on the horse. I got to get myself ready because I'm going to be going out and dealing with the public. And I really think that that's what's happened. Still can run for president. So Waldo wants to run for president. Waldo, don't do it. No one in their right mind would do it. Don't do it. So I think a lot of what, Charles, let's see if that makes sense to you. I know we've talked a lot. I've asked you to unmute yourself. You have to unmute yourself, Charles. Hello? I think I'm not getting through somehow. Okay, let's try Claudia. Ask her to unmute. You'll need you. Okay, very good. So do you see that what you've been doing for about 10 years now has been subconsciously preparing, because you're going to go out and deal with the world in a different way?
Oh, without a doubt.
Now, how would you say so?
In terms of getting my my discipline.
Your personal self ready.
Oh yeah, my
That's,
personal self, how I communicate, but my discipline, my daily
that's right.
routine, definitely having to do with how I take care of my health. Is
That's right.
big.
That's right.
Oh my gosh, which has changed so much in the last few years. But you know, the more I go along this path, the more I realize I have to do it myself, and it's not. I don't really want to.
I understand that, but you can see when you read Exquisite Zodiac, it's a study in how these first 6 signs are about me and the last 6 signs are about us. And this critical line here is so critical because you cross from my stuff into our stuff, me taking a position and needing a partner in the sign of Libra. So what we've been seeing for for Leos very strongly is
Makes sense.
wonder where that line came from. Is getting ready for partnership.
Yep.
Okay, now let's go into the Virgos. For Virgo people, thank you, Claudia. For Virgo people, if you put this on the ascendant, okay, this is house 1, then that becomes house 7, 6, 5. Okay, so Saturn and Pluto have been in your 5th house. Now, this is very unusual because the 5th house is about expressing yourself. And you need to express yourself to be a healthy entity. And that's not Virgo's trait to express themselves. They can, but it's not their bailiwick. It is their thing to be in the background, behind the curtains. They like to operate, they actually like to operate everything, but be behind the curtains. Because they're just so darn good at it. Okay? So what's been going on with Virgo, and we've talked a lot about it in this show, Virgo has been pushed to express themselves, to take dance class, to take speech class, to become more of an orator, to play their guitar, to sing their songs. And it's not Virgo's nature to output. It's their nature to contain what's there and fix it. Take whatever the issue is, what's broken, and fix it. Now, what do you Virgos have to say? We got Peggy, we got Sigmund. Okay, ask to unmute. Go ahead, Peggy and Sigmund.
Okay, well, it's true. I had been practicing being in a band for a long, long time so I could get good enough to be in a really good band, and I managed to do that. And then COVID came along. And also in my job, I'm retired now, but in my job, my whole life I had kept lower paying jobs because I was afraid to get out in front of everybody and show my brains off, or whatever you call it.
Your skill.
I took a better job, and I was successful, and then I retired. But it was really hard. It was stressful for me being a Virgo because I had to communicate, and show that I could stand up under pressure and such in this type of job. And so it has been hard, but I think I have succeeded. And to finish off, I now got this beautiful cat. I lost my cat, and then since it's the 5th house, I wanted a cat so bad, and he's beautiful. And he's the best cat of all the cats I've ever had. So all this 5th house stuff has, I think, been successful for me. So I feel good that I can move on to the 6th house where I think I'll feel more comfortable.
Well, you know what? I'd even like to write a book about this someday because it's so delicate and complex. When you follow your archetypal push that comes up through you, or being yourself, the Virgo push is to be pure. And they are pure. And they are caring. But one of the byproducts of it, I got another person knocking on our door. They keep knocking. Someone's knocking at our door. I think it's Linda. No planet is coming out and telling you that you shouldn't express yourself. It's a byproduct because why? Because Virgos are so critical. And I'm not talking about other people. They're so critical of themselves. And it's almost impossible to not project that criticism outward. Well, they must think I'm nuts. They must think I'm no good. The Virgos are always projecting outward that somebody else is criticizing them, when it's really not the case. And it's really, the message here overall is it's really difficult to go against your archetypal nature. And you've done well. What do you think, Sigmund?
Well, I agree with the creative piece. For the past several years, I've been doing some editing and writing for an online mystery school that I've been part of for a long time, and that's going well. Sporadic, because I'm not in charge. I just take what's available and what comes my way. Although I do make requests and suggestions, but I've been tasked with doing some serious writing, some serious rewritings, a lot of editing. I'm good at that, and I like that. And I do a lot of the editing language and thought for myself, especially if I have the opportunity beforehand, getting into something with someone, and that's something that I do enjoy, getting the precision and clarity of thought and speech.
Plus, you have a lot of Libra in you, so you're not a real good example of pure Virgo energy. You have like 4 or 5 planets in Libra, so it gets mixed up. It gets mixed together. So the point is, in the last 10, 12 years, you probably have become more output-like.
Some.
Make sense?
Some. Yeah, it does. It does. I enjoy being outgoing, interacting with people, groups of people. So it's, of course, something that I miss, being, much more isolated since the middle of
And
March.
you were a disc jockey for a long time, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Thank you, Sigmund. I got a hand raised by Timry. Timry, you'll need to unmute yourself and ask your question.
So my question is that I'm a Leo rising, and in 2008 I had my first child, and that kind of changed everything for me. So if we're looking at Placidus, it would be mostly in my 5th house when Pluto would have entered. But it changed my daily life, my daily work habits and daily life, how I started to see things as far as my daily habits and my child. So
What is your sun sign?
a Cancer.
Okay, well, the main thing, without a doubt, that Pluto and Saturn did to you was 7th house stuff.
Okay.
Pluto was coming from your 7th house. Anytime 2 planets are opposite, you had all the planets in Capricorn and you're a Cancer.
Correct.
Anytime there's an opposition, anytime, it has a 7th house connotation, because the opposition is 7th house. What does that mean? It means this: I'm being myself. Who am I when I'm with you? I'm by myself. I know who I am. Who am I when I'm with you? What's my partner like? That's where the urge for partnership comes.
Okay.
It comes from that.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you very much. All right, we're going to move on now. We did Virgo. I want to move into Libras. Do we have Libras? Yes. Linda is here. Linda, I'll unmute you. Now, to make it simple, when you're a Libra, Pluto and Saturn are coming from the 4th house. Notice it goes backward. Each time we go forward, it goes backward. So as you look at Libra, I got to do it this way. As you look at Libra, Pluto and Saturn have been down in the 4th house. All squares are coming from the top or the bottom. Because whatever you're looking at, you can move it on the flexible prism, which is the 12-sided prism called the zodiac, to the 1st house. Libra's coming from the 4th, Capricorn, or Aries is coming from the top. So what has Pluto been doing? And I saw this years ago, and I wrote in 2005, warning all the Libras. Why? Because Libra is what? Cardinal air. They're leaders of ideas. They're an air sign. But what do you think Pluto had in store for them in 2008, 2009? They had to start getting it together emotionally. And that's what landed on their plate. And a lot of Libras didn't do well, and Libra almost always does well. They land on their feet. They're a very savvy, smart sign. They know how to play the social game. But all of a sudden, I saw a lot of Libras just having to adjust. And what happened, they were trying to solve the problems intellectually. And you can't. You can't solve an emotional problem intellectually. What do you think, Linda?
Well, hello, that's the story. That's the story of the last 8 years of my life, 10 years. You know, I had 3 major deaths, you know, one thing after another, and all of it processing through here until finally I couldn't do that anymore. And I had to change how I did it.
Yeah, but let's stop for one moment and let people understand this. If you were a typical Libra, you would have had a harder time. But you got Pluto rising and you've got Scorpio moon.
That's right.
So your Pluto adjustment was not nearly as hard for you as other Libras. Okay?
And I think too that the Libra side, and because that's a kind of a balance in me, and the Libra side of me was sort of the intellectual side of me saying, you have to do this emotional thing. I mean, it was like more of a dialogue than it was, you know, but even so, it was really hard. It was really
hard, and Pluto brought you powerful people to help you.
That's right.
Which is what Pluto does. And one of the other things that's really interesting about this, everybody, we can take our little Hollywood squares here. We're always up on the squares on the screen here, and realize something. We're not our sun signs. We are not our sun signs. We all over-identify with that little thing that's hanging around our neck. I mean, we have a lot to do with our sun sign, but we all have all 12 signs in us. So sometimes waking that part up is not easy. But you took to it rather well. I mean, I didn't know you in the early days, but you took, once you realized what the Pluto charge was upon you, you started doing well. And how can you tell when somebody's accepting the Pluto challenge properly? How can you tell?
They clean their basement.
They clean their basement.
I'm actually getting ready to
clean their basement is exactly right.
And some, I mean, for me, I can remember you telling me this, when would it have been? This is like 2012, 2013. You told me that I needed to go back and do an autopsy of all of my relationships.
That's right.
In childhood.
That's right.
And I seriously sat down, and I had paper and computer and all this stuff. And I went clear back to what I could remember as a toddler, the things I can remember, and, you know, the different friendships and the different, you know, romantic relationships. And I just figured out, I mean, that's where the Libra part of me comes in. I can use the brain to do that work, but but the question was always, how did this make me feel?
That's exactly right.
And you just laid that out. It was like I had a homework assignment, and I just sat down, and it took.
Well, I knew you were ready for it. And what does that mean to be ready for it? What that means is you are finally, or in another way, you are opening the channel inside yourself from the Pluto part up through the head. Pluto comes from out there. It comes from the collective soul. And you see, the reason you have a hard time with Pluto is not because of Pluto, it's because you've never developed the channel. The channel's never been open. Either you were scared of it, or you had bad experiences with it, or people hurt you, whatever reason. It's a rare individual that has all 12 channels open. You see. Okay, before we continue, thank you, Linda. Charlene had a question about Taurus. What was your question, dear? Unmute yourself.
I was wondering, so what's the deal with Pluto on the Ascendant?
What do you mean? What do you mean by Pluto on the Ascendant?
in a natal chart. I was just looking at my sister's natal chart. She
Okay,
has,
now that's a completely different story. If Pluto's on a person's natal chart on the ascendant, like
Yes.
Linda has, that's a whole different story. And what it essentially means is they're a whole lot Scorpio besides what their sun sign is. Okay? And Pluto people with Pluto right on a major angle like that, their life will be this way all their life. They'll be up and down, daily soap operas. That's just because they get bored with normal life. They get passionate, and passion brings ups and downs. That's what happens when Pluto's on the ascendant, okay?
okay, thanks.
That makes sense? Okay, good. All right, let's go on to Scorpio now. Now, since Scorpio is in the first house, and Sag would be in the second house, then all the Capricorn stuff's in the third house. Okay. The third house is the mind. How does the mind work? How does my machine work? Does it need an update? What's going on with it? So when you see Pluto and Saturn going through the third house, it's not a big deal because Scorpios are already used to thinking deeply. Now, it might be a big deal that Saturn's going through the third house, okay? But Pluto is affecting all Scorpios in a third house manner. And what that means is, okay, here's exactly what it means. Not what the books tell you. Here's exactly what it means. Shut this electricity off. Okay, everybody wind down. Shoo. It's time to turn off all the computers and examine all the software and see what's working and what's not. Shut down the machines. You know, when the FBI raids you, they come in with clippers. Did you know that? When they come in like with clippers. I don't know what kind they are. Cable cutters. They come in and they cut the cables. Everything. Within minutes. No access to nothing. Then they take it back in their garages and they reassemble it. So that would scare the hell out of anybody. So what's going on with the Scorpios? They probably didn't even notice. It was time to re-examine their software. How have they been thinking? So I don't think it was a bad time at all for Scorpios. So we'll go ahead on to Sag. Okay. Sag is in the first house, Capricorn's in the second. Who's my Sagittarius? I got Susan in Cleveland. Okay, I got Waldo down. He doesn't have his camera on it anymore. Is that you? He's got the mask on. Oh my God. Oh, he's got Leo planets. I can't help him. Okay, we got the unmute Susan. We got to unmute Waldo. And I knew he'd find a way. Okay, now, the second house for you Sagittarians. You've had this big revolution in the second house. And Sagittarius is tough to deal with, and here's why. Because they always tell you, just like Leo, they always tell you. What? They always tell you that everything's fine. Four-letter word starts with F. Fine. This is what Sagittarius are always saying and Leos are always saying. And it really doesn't mean things are fine, but it's just their natural response. They're upbeat. But with a revolution going on in their second house, it means they're really trying to rebuild, restructure their sense of self-worth. Now, what's happened to you, Sagittarius? And I'm not convinced that is Waldo, so you're going to have to prove it to me. Somebody behind that mask there. Come on, Susan, what do you think?
I've had massive changes over the last 12 years.
In what topics? What areas?
Oh, fixing finances, retirement, changing location.
Second house is money.
Right. Moving to the Northwest, moving back to Ohio, getting ready to hit the road again fairly soon, about 6 months or
What
less.
has happened to your sense of self-worth?
It shifted a lot. I identified as a teacher. I'm not anymore. I retired. Now I identify as an artist and a medium. It's entirely different, and it's based on what I think, not what other people think.
Exactly, exactly. So you can see with all these people tonight that not everybody had a picnic, but most of the time people have been victorious. And after all, Pluto's been in that sign for 12 years. Remember, Pluto is in Gemini. It's in Gemini for 30 years. So we're lucky it's only 15 years in Sag. It was only 13 years in Sag and 15 years in Capricorn. Waldo, you going to talk to us or look like a Mayan god? Or what do you got to say?
Look at my Scorpio. Pluto is Scorpio. No, I would say the same thing that she said. It's been very tough, but it's been very deep since 2008. At least a lot of things have happened.
Yeah.
Deep learning, a lot of. I have the stellium in the fourth house. So
And a lot of times it's not easy for Sag because Sag is not a sign that wants to go down in the depths. Sag is mutable fire. It wants to just keep shooting off the fireworks. Okay, thank you, Walt. That's very good. Now, who are my unfortunate Capricorns beside myself? Well, me and Marcia, bud, and Kathleen. Yeah. Okay, Kathleen, Cassie. You need to, okay, she's unmuted. Marcia's, where's she at? She's unmuting. Okay, for Capricorns, it's probably been really hard, but Capricorn's used to hardship at all times anyway. It's the damn truth. It's just the damn truth. It just is. So a lot of people, they saw this great big boulder coming, and for Capricorns, it was just another day. Did I tell you this story? I'm going to take a minute to tell you. Oh, I'm going to tell you two stories. I had a reading 2 days ago, and this woman has a very disabled son. And talk about, you think it's hard to read charts? Sometimes I get charts that are so hard, I have no idea. This child was born within 2 days of Pluto going into Capricorn. This child was and is Pluto in Capricorn, period. There's no other way to put it. The child can't speak. He's severely autistic. She's a wonderful, patient Pisces mother. She's making good progress with him, but on her scale. But somebody born that close to an ingress, planet moving into another sign. Another story. This is amazing. Pluto went into Capricorn on Friday night at 9:30 on January 25th of 2008. This is why we all got it backward. We should all tell stories first with the year first, and then the month, and then the day. That's just how we should tell stories. So I'm dealing about 4 months into 2008, and I remember that Friday night I'm giving a lecture, and there's a woman, Capricorn, standing in the corner, and for whatever reason she started talking about her job, and for whatever reason I just turned to her at 9:30. I turned to her and said, "You are in the wrong job." I don't know what got into me, but it was true. Anyhow, about 3-4 months later, this guy comes to me. He's a gay man. He's an accountant. And he gets his day timer out. Right? I think he was a Virgo. And he said to me on the evening of January 25th, he was in a meeting. Who in the world is in a meeting on on a Friday night at 9:30, a meeting of accountants. He said he was in that meeting, and this is the minute that it crossed in. He stood up in the middle of that meeting because so many of his friends were dying of AIDS. He said, I'm done. I'm done with all you. I don't know what else to say. I'm done with accounting. I'm going to school. I'm going to become a physician's assistant. And he quit right there, and that was it. And he looked back in his day timer and figured out that was the night and the moment, down to the minute. Sometimes things do happen that way. Okay, what were Pluto and Saturn doing to Capricorn? Well, just adding to our sense of duty and responsibility. You know, one of the things that we've harped on too much is, that's okay, John, no problemo. One of the things that we've harped on too much is the Pluto showing the corruption. What we've not talked enough about is Capricorn is responsible for coming up with a better system. Good luck, Marcia. Good luck, Rick. I don't know what to replace this with. I mean, I believe Ben Franklin was a Capricorn. Yeah, he was. Okay, so it's going to get easier when it goes into Aquarius, but it's no picnic. So that leaves us two signs. Aquarius, Pluto, and Saturn. Let me go back to Marcia before I forget. What was it like for you from 08 on?
It was hard, and it was hard. There were a good 8 years there. There were a lot of worry for me because of my single parenthood and what I was dealing with.
Not easy. You had to buckle down, huh?
Well, a lot of responsibility, a lot of things to handle.
Yeah, well, you did it, and the only way you did it is by you just handled it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Very good. Thank you. Aquarians, I don't think we have any. Pluto and Saturn, I talked to Liza about this tonight. Pluto and Saturn is and was going through their 12th house. And Ray's here. Okay, Ray, you can turn your mic on if you care to. Yeah, it's on. Okay. In the 12th house, what Pluto has been doing, you people who are such deep thinkers anyway, it's been really requiring you to get past life therapy, to dig up stuff from the old days, to solve things that have been unconscious. Those whole issues have become paramount for you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I find myself, well, it was interesting in 2008, 2009, that's when my mother started going in decline and had to look after her and clean out her house. And after she passed, and I'm, getting ready to put it on the market, but boy, I'm looking forward to when this moves into the first house, because I've been about other people so much. I mean, I've been the one that's been looking after my my family's affairs, if you will.
Yeah, the 12th house can be very karmic. Yeah, that's right. Well, so far we're following suit perfectly. Thank you, Ray. And we don't have any Pisces, do we? Okay. For Pisces people, Pluto and Saturn have been in their 11th house. And in the 11th house, in the 11th house, the 11th house is your hopes and your wishes and your friends and the groups that you're involved with. So I can see that, Ray. If you're listening on YouTube, we are able to send each other messages and you don't see them. And that's why it seems like a little secret whispering is going on. By the way, if you are on YouTube and you're watching, thank you for joining us. If you want to join in any Thursday night, 8 o'clock Eastern, just go to Google and type in Astrology Unplugged. And you'll get the link and you can join us for free on Thursday nights, 8 o'clock, 8 p.m. Okay, now, I'm going to get to the final point here after Pisces. Pisces people with the 11th house, it's very hard because here you have the house. It's a solar house. It's not a natal house. It's confusing, I know. Here you have the 11th house, which is the house of my deeper dreams and aspirations, with the sign that doesn't have any aspirations. It's really hard to talk about Pisces. Kathleen, I didn't ask you. I'm sorry, dear. What is your Capricorn? What was your experience?
Mine was, it's really bad. I just feel like I'm existing. I'm not doing anything. I've had like 4 or 5 deaths since 2008. And since then, my daughter has moved back in my house. My granddaughter's moved back in my house. And I just feel like overwhelming with financial and everything else that comes with it. And I'm just waiting for this to all go away.
Yeah, but we've talked about this, and it is not going to go away because there is no it. We've talked about this in detail, and I don't want to go into it too much here. It's got to do with how do you put it with Pluto? Okay, how do you put it with Pluto? If I'm stepping on your foot and you don't say anything, Pluto's going to go get 10 other feet and step on your foot at the same time. Pluto's waiting for you to scream, "Get the hell off my foot!" So it's not a matter of a planet leaving. It's a matter of you processing your power.
But I just want to get over this feeling of it just existing.
Well, once you get those feet off of your foot, that will come back because all that feeling of being alive is underneath all that. But all the rules of why you should let somebody step on my foot, all the rules why you should let somebody move in, why you should let somebody, you pay for them to do this or that, you see? It's got to do with your own rules. We've talked about this before, and I'd be glad to talk to you more about it in private, but that's how it works. Excuse me one moment. Peggy says, I know a Pisces who is at the end of a successful career and will now go into taking care of family affairs. Yeah, 12th house and also the 4th house. The 4th house is family karma. 12th house is global karma. A lot of times planets are there and you just got to stop what you're doing, sell your business, and move across the country to take care of mom and dad. That's what Saturn does. That's what Pisces does in different ways, but they're similar. Those are karmic houses, karmic signs, Capricorn, Pisces. Kathleen, the more rules that you allow yourself to break. Now that Eris is here, Eris is going to support you. You want to break some rules? Fine. It'll support you because it's not fair. Once you do it, you've got these imagined results. That's what they are, and they're not real, they're not true, and that's why it's been bad. And that's why you've been led here to get through these kind of thought processes. So as you can get people off your back, it will get better. Now, Pisces, they need to honor the fact that they do have goals, because Pisces feel guilty when they do anything that's for the self. So it's very tough, but that's why in our book we stated that the answer to being a Pisces is to be a little more selfish, to be a little more Aries-like. Okay, that's the answer for them. Now, oh, there's the real Waldo. Yay. Okay, now, you have to understand something here. For the whole world, I got to get this right. Okay. For the whole world, Pluto and Saturn have been in the 10th house. Pluto and Saturn have been in the 10th house for the whole world, all 7 billion of us. And Eris has been in the first house. So what have we collectively been having to deal with countrywide, worldwide? Governments, institutions, fairness? Are they really apt? Are they really willing to take care of us? What's happened to the Boy Scouts? What's happened to teachers? What's happened to travel? What's happened to government? What's happened to Army? We're seeing all these institutions, and if they are sound, they will become more sound. And if they're not sound, they come crumbling down. So nobody's, I mean, all these people are writing on Facebook about, oh, what a year 2020's been. Oh, what a year. Like there's somebody throwing a curveball or something. Well, we've known all this stuff. We've known it all along. So that's why we need a little more time. And it's not going to be easy. And we got a lot of really great things like the Healy coming along to help us. And like hopefully this phenomenal turnout at the elections, people voting ahead of time. Anyhow, when Pluto shifts into the next sign of Aquarius, I will do this again for all of you in a couple of years. Because it's going to all go into the next house for all of you. In general, the best way to deal with Pluto and Saturn is you got serious stuff to do and do it. And when you see a lot of Americans who are being real lighthearted about stuff and ignoring how serious it is, look what's happening with the virus. I'm not wearing a mask. What do you mean I gotta wear a mask? Questions, answers, comments. Saturn in Aquarius, yes. Your Saturn in Aquarius return, yes. Well, Waldo, it's also your second Saturn return, so you're going to get a lot of relief from responsibilities.
Already feel it.
You already feel it?
Well, I'm letting go everything that I can do anything about it.
That's it. That's it.
Just
How's
handling yourself.
How's the virus down there?
It's pretty tough.
Is that right?
They keeping a good eye on it, but they're thinking sometimes they bring it back to close down the country, but the president won't let them, you know. So
yeah, I'm well aware of that. What are the Mexicans saying about our wonderful election next week?
well, they always watch it very close, you know. It's neighbors, you know. Everything that affects the U.S. affects Mexico. So
Let me show you one final thing, then I'm going to call it a night because I'm tired. Let me show you one thing, okay, everybody? Watch this. I'm embarrassed to say that in the United States chart, I don't know what I was looking at all these years, and I think I've been arguing with myself so long about what is the birth time of the United States. Is it Sag rising? Is it Scorpio rising? All that was going on. I think I got so myopic that I failed to see until about 3 months ago that Neptune was squaring Mars. And once I saw that, I think you were all in this show about 3 months ago, I saw Neptune at 22, squaring Mars at 21. I did 14 backflips in my chair here. This is a very bad aspect. I'm sorry, it just is. And what does it mean? It means Mars in Gemini, which means that we get these kind of frivolous ideas and we act on them. It means also we're real good at doing 10 things at one time and we're kind of fun-loving, but it's square to Neptune. And that means we delude ourselves. Oh, I can do this. Oh, we can do that. Hey, we could put a base in Iceland. Hey, we could put a base in Guatemala. What the hell? Hey, we can do what we want. So once I started to see this in the natal chart of America, I really just have been flabbergasted. Then, last 2 weeks, I saw transiting Neptune's here. It's at 20. It's at 18 right now. It's been 18, 19, 20, 21. It's been opposite Neptune. So the Neptune that's opposite, that's the Neptune that squares Mars, is now opposite itself. So now you've got a diluted Neptune Mars that's 10 times more diluted. And that's why you've got this country going with, I'm not going to shut down. I'm going to go to the beach with my buddies. Hey. So, sounds to me like it's really the opposite of what Saturn Pluto is trying to say. Get serious. Do what you got to do to fix this problem. The Neptune Mars is, hey, shake it off. Hey, it won't work. It'll work, don't worry. Anyhow, I'm going to say goodnight to everybody. Cut it short tonight. I'm going to wish you all well through the election. Please be careful if you run into any untowardness at the booth. If you do need the phone number, please write to me independently at rick@starself.com. I'll have the phone number that you could call. You can take this phone number with you. If somebody gets to be goofy with you during your voting process, take their photograph and call this federal number. So if you need that number, I have to go look it up. It's on Facebook. If you need that number, write to me and I'll be glad to send it to you. But everybody, good luck, and let's all hope we have a happy night on November 3rd.
Happy full moon
Happy
in Scorpio.
I'm working all 4 days at the precinct.
You're
And
all,
I better not come out on Tuesday and get bad news, or I don't know what's going to happen. My head is going to explode.
I tell you, Canada's going to shut their borders. I know Mexico's going to shut their borders. After
Ah,
they pay.
we
They already
we
did.
celebrate the Day of the Dead and that week. Remember that.
After you pay for our wall, you can let us all live there.
We will be celebrating our dead. So the first and second and third, we celebrate the dead over here in Mexico. So if somebody's dying, we celebrate anyway.
Good night,
We're not
everybody.
dead yet, Waldo.
Good night, all.
We welcome you next month, December.